Croeso. It's Friday, it's pod o'clock, and it's Dragonheart. With the National League announcing that the English-based clubs will all be allowed to play games in front of their own fans in the crucial run-in matches, the Welsh Government has come up trumps for Wrexham. It's announced 9 test events with spectators in it. In South Wales. Nothing in Mid Wales, nothing in North Wales. But don't worry, culture fans, if you fancy a trip to the theatre, just pop in your car down to Brecon. Admittedly, a day later, the Welsh Government did announce that if we get a home playoff, we will be allowed to let some fans in. Other imaginary test events coming up include the Ali Foreman rematch in the Real Sun Centre and Frank Sinatra's big comeback in the Abermavie Superdome. So thank you, Cardiff, for officially promoting North and Mid Wales to the status of an afterthought. We'll be looking back on the Yeovil match, talking to Andy Thackeray, a great name from the 80s and 90s who reveals who the Lord Mayor of Wrexham is, talking about the run-in, and also looking at this issue of fans being allowed into matches in a segment which we recorded before the announcement that there may be fans allowed into the playoffs. So, what are you waiting for? Pop your crash helmet on, pull down your goggles, it's time for Dragonheart.
The other side, you're listening to the Dragonheart radio.
Oh, hi, welcome to Dragonheart. I'm Mark Griffiths, and hey, he's Chay Long. Hi, Chay.
Hi, Mark. How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad. I've managed to keep dry. I'm not sure you have. You've been just been experiencing the torrential rain, haven't you?
Yeah, hopefully the rain can go away this weekend as the game's approaching, because I don't think anyone in the National League can afford to have any more postponed games.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be talking about later on where the fans can come back into the grounds. We'll also have a look at the run-ins for the rest of the season. But let's focus first on the fun and games last Saturday. Yeovil, they came, they got on the pitch, they gave up. It was wonderful. It was a real walk in the park, wasn't it, really?
It was some of the most bizarre football I've seen from a team this season. It was a team that just looked utterly deflated as soon as they conceded the first goal, really, or even conceded the first few chances.
They were just so poor. And their form's been terrifically up and down lately, but the way they defended was at times quite laughable, wasn't it, really? But having said that, we started to be good enough to put them away, and we certainly did.
We did, and the worst part about it is that we didn't get more than 3 goals after the first half.
Yeah,
I think we could have been 4 or 5 up. It was some of the most bizarre football I've ever seen. And
yeah,
I think it was a mixture of excellent by Wrexham, but also horrendous by Yeovil, like real basic defending. That we were just basically lobbing the ball over the top, and they just weren't winning any headers or anything at all. It was really bizarre, wasn't it?
Yeah, you called them out consistently in the first half of the commentary because they changed their shape to match us up, and they just didn't look comfortable with it at all, did they? The left back Dickinson, he's an experienced player, but he looked much too slow to play centre back like that, and Angus had spotted it, and we were constantly dropping balls in behind him, and they were all over the shop. And then the defence, well, I mean, they lose a player through injury. Skendy, the makeshift centre-back, steps up into midfield and then injures himself, comically, and he has to go off. It was really just, it was farcical, but the way they were giving the ball away in their own half, there's so much. I mean, if it wasn't for their keeper, had a cracking game, didn't he, really? But it could have been a lot more.
I thought their keeper was excellent. He made some fantastic saves, made like a starfish save, as you said on commentary, like a handball, like Peter Schmeichel diving starfish save, which come off leg of Vassell's header. He was really excellent. They had a couple of good players, like Nerful as well. He looked pretty good, I thought. And Quigley up front, who I felt quite sorry for because you could tell he was really frustrated because he was holding the ball up really well, but he had no one to give it to, did he?
Exactly. He must have been thinking, I wish I'd stayed with these guys now, because he played for us on loan, well, a few years ago now. But there were lots of good performances by us. I mean, our midfield just bossed the game, did they? Young and Davis and Harris in the first half. Davis was really on fire, wasn't he?
Oh, he was excellent. And that free kick was just, it was superb, wasn't it?
What a strike. And to get it down like that as well.
Just, he's in.
Yeah, he's put in the bottom corner, essentially. Fantastic goal, that, wasn't it? And, sorry.
And for me, there wasn't a bad performance on the pitch, was there?
No, not at all. Really, really solid, wasn't it, all the way through? Well, better than solid. Nice to see Pearson score.
Yeah, that he opened up the mark. But again, I've rewatched it and it just looked too easy. Yeah. Didn't it? There was no one picking him up. He's obviously going to be a target because he's fantastic in the air and we're great at corners. But they just sort of placed it in the middle. Pearson ran and headed. It was just way too simple for me. I think Yeovil should be defending them better. Well,
I mean, Andy Burrell, I thought, talked through it perfectly in the highlights commentary. And by the way, what a summariser Andy Burrell is. I love listening to him. But, it was, again, I don't want to hang the guy out to dry because there are plenty of other bad performances by Yeovil, but that was Dickinson's man. And just by sort of checking out one way and going the other, Pearson just completely bewildered him, it seemed. He'd lost him free-header. And then it happened again in the second half, didn't it? And Smith made a magnificent save. I mean, how the hell he saved that? There was an element of him spreading himself, but nonetheless, he still had to flick it up with his wrist. That was a great save.
Oh, it was an excellent save. And we were really we thought highly of him in the game, didn't we? In the commentary, and we spoke highly of him because for him to keep that 3-0 was, well, you could argue it was definitely man of the match performance for them. But he was one of the better players on the pitch in general, because I thought he made some excellent saves. But if you were a Yeovil fan, and imagine if the crowds are back and you travelled all that way to watch them versus Wrexham, and you watch that first half, you'd be leaving after half time, wouldn't you?
Oh gosh, I think you'd have great strength to last that long. I think, to be honest with you, they were horrific, weren't they? Oh,
they were just awful. And that is it. The first or the second goal where their defender sort of like comically tripped over, didn't he? Clearing the ball, like slipped over. And it landed to Jordan Davis, did he square the ball to Luke Young?
Yeah.
He sort of made a recovery and then sort of booted it into his own net again, really, didn't he? That defender. Yeah. It was just bizarre defending, wasn't it, all in all?
At the time, I sort of felt a bit sorry for the defender. You're rushing back to try and block it, it hits you, it goes in. But when you look at it again, I'm not saying he had much time. Young, of course, Young is shooting. He's going to really hit it hard. But all he had to do was you don't have to do anything with it except stop it going past you. Just get a block on it. You don't have to take a swing at it with your wrong foot and slice it in the top corner.
Just throw your body at it and make sure it doesn't go in the net. That's your job at that point. Yeah. But thankfully for us, he didn't do it. But honestly, I think our two strikers will be really frustrated at themselves that they didn't get any goals for that game.
Absolutely. Yeah, strikers thrive on goals, don't they? Omatayo had a couple of good chances that he couldn't quite force in. Omatayo brings more to the game than goals, obviously, but both he and Angus, I think, will be thinking that was a chance to fill our boots, quite frankly. They both played well, but they could have really hurt Yeovil and given themselves a bit of a boost in terms of goals. I'm not saying that they played bad. No. Don't get me wrong. I think Gold Amateo was causing them all sorts of problems in physicality and in the air. He was just sort of bullying them, wasn't he? And they couldn't cope with Dior Angus's pace at all. But it's such a shame they just didn't get those goals because in a game like that, strikers should be really hungry for goals, shouldn't they? Exactly. And also, it's interesting actually. I was looking today at goals because if you want to look at strike rate, and this might surprise everybody. Adi Yusuf's strike rate for Wrexham this season is much better than Dior Angus's, but it doesn't feel that way. And before anyone starts thinking I think we should have kept Yusuf and not had Angus. I don't think that at all. I think Angus has been very good for us. Part of the reason it doesn't feel that way is because Angus has played a lot better than Yusuf did. Yusuf was very up and down. Angus brings something particular to the way that we play, which is important, which Yusuf didn't. And also, I've really got to emphasise this. Yusuf had 6 goals, 4 of them against teams that are now in the bottom 3. And then he got 1 against Sutton, which, to be honest, we were already 2-0 up and flying at that point. So the game was won, I think, to all intents and purposes. We won it 4-0. We didn't let a goal in. Whereas Angus's goals have pretty much all come against teams in the playoffs. And have often been important goals at certain points in the game, opening goals, second goals, goals that make an impact on the match. And I think that's another reason why Angus feels much more effective than Yusuf, even though he scored 6 goals and Yusuf had, I think, 7 starts and Angus has had 20 starts. But Angus, I think
Dio Angus brought a lot more, brings a lot more to the plate as a footballer than Adi Yusuf. And I think if you watch Quamway and Dio together, it was a real relationship that was really blossoming until Quamway got injured. And I think Dio did initially struggle with being the lone striker as well at one point, having no one next to him. But when goals come in, he's worked really well with that another big target man, hasn't he? And he's one of them strikers who needs someone with him. But he's got a great work rate. He's got fantastic pace. So I think Dio Angus brings a lot more than goals as well, really. And
as well, the fact that he's always running in behind gives us something that we didn't have before. So he keeps running in behind. We're able to stretch the play by knocking balls in behind. And that poses problems as centre-backs. Firstly, because they don't like getting turned. Second, and we scored goals like that, haven't we? Where Angus is getting in behind, going 1-1 and scoring. Also because centre-backs maybe feel worried by Angus and might drop off a little more, and that gives more space in midfield. And look at the way our midfield have been scoring goals, Young and Davis. So he brings a lot in those respects, I think, doesn't he? Sort of like changing the nature of the game a bit. So, it's been crucial for us. And
I'm not too bothered if your strikers aren't scoring goals as long as someone in the pitch is.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've got Luke Young and Jordan Davis who are just banging in the goals and scoring great goals. So, I'm really happy with the way our team's played, and I was very, very happy with the way we played against Yeovil. So what do you think of our defence? We've not really talked much about our defence. They kept the clean sheet.
Didn't much to do, did they? To be honest, it was pretty solid. It was quite nice that, apart from having a break at midweek when some of the teams played, our team, we also had a break in the second half on Saturday. The defence was perfectly solid, not really troubled. I mean, Lainton had one good save from a free kick, although he probably expects to save that much more often than not. And it was just rock solid, wasn't it, really? The defender, it's
another clean sheet.
Yeah, exactly. It was like 17, I think, for the season now. That's pretty tasty. The defender I was going to ask you about is Cameron Green, who, he started 2 home games now. He's done really well in both, hasn't he?
Yeah, I thought he was even better against Yeovil, but that was a team that was a lot less. Were terrible on the day, but again, it was the same sort of criticisms as well of his last game, that he come up against a more experienced, same wing as Nerfville, wasn't he? I thought who had an excellent game. He struggled a little bit defensively, which I don't think Jamie Record does as much. I think Jamie Records still our best left wing back, but I think Cameron Green's a fantastic cover, really.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got to say as well that I thought he did better defensively than in the first match. Despite what I was saying in commentary, because throughout in commentary I was sort of suggesting otherwise, but that's because Nerfville started really well. And he actually faded as the game went on, and I thought that Green had him more in his pocket than before. So that was a good sign, I thought. Sorry, go on.
He was really good, and he's a young lad as well. It's great that he's getting some experience, and maybe we could sign him for another year contracts. I think he looks like he's got some sort of potential, isn't he?
He's an academy player, and the way he's brought up, he looks tidy, he's neat. I like the videos he's put up on social media of him ball juggling during lockdown. You know, he's got a bit of skill. Yeah, to me, he looks interesting, and I wonder whether he's just a left wing back, to be honest. So yeah, it was a good win. What we needed just to keep the momentum going and launch us into these last 4 games, really, wasn't it, Jay?
Yeah, and we've got a lot of tough games coming up as well. I think, people are saying we're going to smash Dagenham and Redbridge and what, but if you look at their form at the moment, they're playing fantastic. So we just need to focus on ourselves. That was an excellent win. And if we carry on performances like that, I can't see why we can't make it into the playoffs. Absolutely.
Well, put the perfect link there, because after the break, we'll talk about our run-ins and see what we think our chances are of promotion.
I'm Kerry Evans, and you're listening to Dragonheart Radio Show.
Yeah, so it's going to be a squeaky bum time from now on, I think. 4 games for us. Some of the teams have got 3 to decide who gets into the top 7 and the playoffs. And, well, on Tuesday, we dropped out of the top 7 to 9th because of results elsewhere. But I've got to say, Jay, that really doesn't worry me all that much, because I'd looked through all the fixtures coming up, and I knew that the teams around us had quite easy-looking fixtures. I didn't expect any of them to drop points. So I don't feel too concerned by that, really.
I'm not concerned, but I am concerned about the Notts County game on Tuesday. That's a huge one. I think if we win that, then I think we have a cracking chance to qualify for the playoffs, and that's the goal for the season, wasn't it? Really?
Exactly. I mean, that's our game in hand, and I know this is stupid because Saturday's games come in between, but if we imagine that we had our game of hand now, if we beat Notts County, we overtake them and we go into 5th. If we draw against Notts County, we jump into 6th. So we are in a good position. The other good thing to say is that apart from the top 4, who I think are out of reach, we'll get into that in a minute, we've got the best goal difference, thanks to our recent surge of 4-0 and 3-0 wins. So, brilliant. I was not so long ago, we seem to have worse goal difference than most of the teams around us, but we're now 11 better than Bromley, who are 1 place above us. We're 14 better than Eastleigh, who are 1 place below us. We're 16 better than Dagenham, who are 2 places below us. We're only 1 worse than Hartlepool, who are 4th. I think they're out of reach. It might not be. Probably are. But yeah, we're in a better position than 9th would suggest, I would argue. Yeah, we're in a good position. It just shows how competitive the National League is. For me, a lot of people say, the Championship's the hardest league to get out of in the English tier system. I would argue that the National League is, really, with just the two promotions and the playoff being so dense and so stacked full of decent sides. It's been a cracking one for the neutral. But yeah, we need to keep on playing the way we're playing, defensively solid and nicking goals and scoring goals like we have been. Yeah, and I know it sounds odd, but in some ways, I'm happier when we're away than when they're at home as well. Yeah. Because we really have been fluid and attacking in away games, scoring a lot of goals in recent weeks. So I'm not totally scared. I'd rather come top, 2nd or 3rd, but that's gone now. But failing that, I'm not too scared at playing an away game at some point, because we did win 4-0 at Halifax after all. And so, I'm not too worried by that. I think when you look at the games, Boreham Wood coming up next is interesting. What's their attitude? They've got 4 games left. The most points they can get is 64. And the playoff at the moment, 7th place, is 62. So although technically they could make it, in truth, they're not. I just hope they've given up a little bit. I think that would be nice for us if they're just not quite motivated enough. But the thing is, these are football teams. They just want to win as many games as possible. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They just want to be as high as possible so they can build on for next season as well. But it could be a potential banana skin. They're a good side, but I think if we keep on with our strong defensive shape
I can't see why we can't win. And I think we can still afford a draw and get into the playoffs too.
Yeah. The way I look at these fixtures, I think that roughly, I think 2 wins out of 4 will probably get us in the playoffs, and 3 out of 4 almost certainly will.
Yeah.
We got Notts County after that, so these 2 games are massive tests.
Yeah.
Then we got Kings Lynn at home, which on paper we really should be winning. And then that last game of the season is really intriguing to me. Dagenham away. Dagenham, until Tuesday night, were on a run of 6 wins in a row, absolutely flying. That run ended on Tuesday night, but to be fair, only because they drew away at Stockport, who were third. So a superb performance by them. They are in wonderful form. Their 3 remaining games are horrible. And they are playing catch-up. They're 5 points behind us. So it's a long shot. But I should point out that, okay, those horrible fixtures make you think they're not going to, they'd have to win all of them, and they're not going to. But goodness me, it's a chance for them to nick points off everyone above them. Halifax, Chesterfield and us. Now, what I'm hoping is that they go for it against Halifax and Chesterfield, succeed, chip some points off them for us, but they still can't go up on the last day, which means they've not got much to play for against us when there's fans in the ground as well, which could lift them. So I do hope that they are... I hope they're out of the promotion chase, having done damage to Halifax and Chesterfield by the last game of the season, I think, to be honest.
And hopefully Wrexham are just high and dry at that point, and we've won 3 games on the bounce, and we can just rest and play, rotate the squad, and hopefully we've confirmed it by then, because I think if we get 2 wins on the bounce now, as we've said, I think we've pretty much got the playoffs, haven't we? Especially because we're playing Notts County. But that's a huge game next Tuesday for us. It's absolutely massive.
Oh, huge, isn't it? I mean, even before then as well, we've got a tough test. Bromley are away to Notts County, so that's an interesting one. 2 teams that are, above us. So some teams will be dropping points at least. Eastleigh are home to Barnet. They'll have a problem with that. Halifax are away to Dagenham. That's nasty. So there's some quite tough matches for the teams above us. That's what I mean. I wasn't too worried about Tuesday. On Saturday, teams above us have got to drop points. Some of them are playing against each other. And then, so if we can get a good result and then get a good result in Notts County, like you say, those 2 games could put us with 1 foot very firmly in the playoffs.
Oh, 100%. And for me as well, it's we've got to focus on ourselves, because I think throughout the season, when we're playing at our best, we can beat the top sides. And especially if we get into the playoffs, I don't think Wrexham are a side you want to play against, especially if the crowd are in.
Well, that's something we'll pick up in a moment, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I know lots of people have been saying they wouldn't want us to play Stockport or Chesterfield, and I understand that. But when we are clicking, Halifax would be thinking they don't want to play us. Let's be honest.
But on the Stockport thing, do you remember the season where we almost went up and got to the final? We played Kidderminster, didn't we? And they smashed us twice that season in the playoffs. We beat them twice, quite comfortably as well, on both home and away legs. So when it comes to the playoffs, it's a completely different ballgame. So especially now with a new format, it's a one hit, isn't it?
Exactly. I think it's an extremely long shot, but I think if we really nail it, we could come fourth. It's not likely. The reason I'm saying that is that full points for us would put us on 73. Stockport, Hartlepool are fourth. They got 3 games left. One of them is away to Sutton, so that's going to be tough. But the other 2 look well. Weymouth at home, surely they'll win, which will put them on 73. So they'd probably have to lose at Aldershot. We'd have a better goal difference than them, should it go that way, because we're only 1 behind them now. We'd have won 4, they'd have won 1. But in a way, that doesn't matter that much. 5's realistic, 5th's realistic, and 4th or 5th will be in a way semi-final. So in many ways, it doesn't really matter that we can't get in the top 3. Well, I suppose we could, but sort of strictly mathematically speaking. But in truth, we're not.
It's not going to happen, is it?
It's not possible. So interesting that Bromley and Notts County have both got 3 games left, and 2 of them are against each other.
That's mental.
Be nice if both home teams won, or if both games were draws, and then they'll all be dropping marks. Want the points? Yeah, but interesting.
with our quality, I can't see why we can't. But at times this season we have lost silly games. So if we switch off, then we could lose against the Kings Lynn. Anyone can beat anyone in this league. So but I don't like saying this, but I'm reasonably confident that we can make the playoffs.
I'd be disappointed if we didn't. I've got to be honest.
Yeah. I think this season would be looked at as a little bit of a failure if we didn't get into the playoffs, really, because we've had a lot of missed opportunities and thrown a lot of games away. So, yeah, I think we can. I believe in us.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice one. But will we be joined by fans? That's the question. We'll have a little chat about that after this.
I'm Jordan Ponticelli, and you're listening to the Dragonheart Radio Show.
Yeah, so playoffs hopefully on the agenda, but would there be fans in the Racecourse if we played in the playoffs? The Welsh Government has published a series of 9 test events that will be taking place over the next few weeks in Wales to see how we can come out of COVID restrictions. And the furthest north is in Fishguard, which has grabbed quite a few of our people's attentions. Spencer Harris tweeted very articulately about this, saying how it shows the importance of having a cop stand because they clearly have looked at the North Wales and thought, no thanks. But I've got to say, Che, just from a fairness point of view, Swans are in the playoffs. They will have fans in their ground. Yeah. Newport are in the playoffs. They will have fans in their ground. As things stand, we're not having fans in our grounds. That seems a bit odd to me.
Well, they could give us the Kings Lynn game, couldn't they?
Yeah. Which could be crucial.
Yeah, which could be crucial, and it'd be fantastic and such a buzz for people around this area to be able to go to the pub and go to watch a football match. How fantastic would that be for the local community, and guaranteeing not just if you get into the playoffs, you might have crowds there. No, you'd be like, no. You can have it. You can have a tester event at Kings Lynn. You can be the North tester event.
Yeah.
Why not? And especially because Wrexham have voted Labour, be a nice return, wouldn't it, for people voting that way?
We'd like to think that, but maybe the fact that we didn't return a Labour MP and we're getting punished for it, I don't know. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But certainly, I just hope that what's going on here is that it's not being publicised. Do you know what I mean? That they're saying, well, if we get in the playoffs, we will let you, sort of have fans in for a playoff. But as things stand, we're not going to have a home play. Well, we could have a home playoff in the quarterfinals, but I hope we don't. I hope we finish top 5 and skip that stage. So I don't know. It does seem a bit odd to me.
They could even have the Notts County game as the tester one.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go on.
We've got, is it 10,000 without the cop? Is it 10,000 seater without the cop?
A bit less. Sorry. Yeah, about 9,000. Yeah.
So you could socially distance 1,000 people or 1,500 people quite easily.
Yeah.
And then you look at Newport's ground, it's tiny compared to Wrexham's, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if they can socially distance there and have a test event, why not have a test event in Wrexham? I just don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. I find it a bit peculiar. I've also got to say that last season, despite Newport being in a higher division than us, we had, by 230 fans, a bigger average attendance. So in terms of fairness, maybe we deserve that opportunity. I just don't quite work out the agenda behind nothing being in the north. I mean, you've got a theatre in Brecon holding an event. There are theatres in the north. Mould. It may be that nobody has stepped forward in the north and said we want to hold a theatrical event, but we know Wrexham Football Club have been preparing since at least Christmas for the possibility of fans being allowed back in. We would definitely, and have publicly said we were interested. Just find it odd. Leslie Griffiths did put out a tweet which sort of implied they might be looking for, maybe we should, be patient. So hopefully she is working at this. But like I said, that Kings Lynn game might be our last home game. So if they're trying to say, just like Newport and Swansea, if you get in the playoffs, we could have a home game. Well, it might well be So if things go according to plan, we will have an away playoff and then at Wembley. So not much help there.
It kind of feels like, and maybe it's not this, and maybe I'm jumping the gun, but it kind of feels like a north-south bias, doesn't it? Because, the Newport game's confirmed, the Swansea game's confirmed, our literal only confirmed home game where they could get it logistically right is the Kings Lynn game. So why aren't they just piloting it? It's absolutely baffling, honestly.
I'm just thinking then, can I just double check as well? I mean, I'm inclined to see it the same way. Yes, the only possible pilot event that fits in the time frame would be Kings Lynn. But having said that, I mean, the Notts County game is on the 18th. That's the same night as the Newport game. So,
yeah,
why not?
Yeah.
In fact, looking at this list, the first event is in Cardiff and will be this weekend. The next one is also in Cardiff this weekend. There's a business event in Newport, and that is next Thursday. The Swansea game is a weekend after next. Okay, fair enough. The theatre is in June. The rest are in June. But the fact of the matter is that there's stuff happening this weekend as test events. Like I said, I know Wrexham have put in place strategies. I know Wrexham are prepared. And if Newport, I mean, sorry, Newport, if you're listening, but if Newport can get themselves ready, I suspect Wrexham could have done.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit more, well, I don't want to be funny about that, but I was quite sure. So I'm upset by that because that Notts County game is going to be massive, as we said in the last segment.
Well, it's going to be the biggest game of the season, isn't it? Especially, say, if we don't get a win on Saturday, if we lose to Notts County, it could be our season over. Or if we win on Saturday and we beat Notts County, it could be the big yay, couldn't it, as well?
Yeah.
That we could be potentially going into the playoffs. So it's massive games. But even then, even if they couldn't get the logistics for that game, there's the Kings Lynn game. So there's no excuses as far as I'm concerned. All I can say is I hope Leslie Griffiths is working on it, and hopefully we do get to see fans back at the racecourse, because there's going to be a lot of players who've not played in front of fans in the racecourse this season who have worn a Wrexham shirt.
Yeah, that's
so it'd
true.
be lovely to see them hear that atmosphere.
I hadn't thought of that. The majority of the current team have never played in front of Wrexham fans for Wrexham. I think also, surely isn't there some element of, maybe this isn't quite the right word, but reward for people for going through lockdown, that some at least get an opportunity to go and see something? Well, and you got loads of them in Cardiff, 4 of them in Cardiff.
Yeah.
I mean, really? I find that a bit difficult to stomach, and I know you were very diplomatic talking about maybe you felt bad saying it was a north-south divide. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't feel so bad saying it. It's a blatant biased decision. It's I think based at least in part as well as prejudice on, South Wales politicians, and let's be honest, every politician is a South Wales politician in that they're based in Cardiff. Working connections and favours for friends who happen to be South Walian. You're going to have more connections around where you work than where you don't work. And not only that, this is where I'm being bad-minded, and I think maybe I am being bad-minded, but still, remember when we didn't get that money, when Sport England gave money to all the National League teams? Now, okay, we did get funding, and it was explained as an oversight, and, I'm willing to buy that because it was an oversight by the National League and by the club as well, to be fair. So, all right, I'm willing to accept the Welsh governments because they paid up, we're acting in good faith. But having said that, when you then look at this as well, you think, oh, hello, you've forgotten about us again, have you? It's very easy to forget about us up here, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think they're going to be soon wanting to get up here when Rob and Ryan are walking around town, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're going to be wanting to get in their mugs on the camera saying how great it is that these guys are coming to invest in Wrexham.
Yeah. You know what?
Return us the favour and just give us a game. Give us a guaranteed game. And everyone working at Wrexham will make sure it's safe as possible. And, the infection rate is reasonably low at the moment. Give us a game. Give something the fans to shout about.
Well, it's like you said about infection rates, but they've given no reason why. They've just announced it as if, but this is what the Welsh Assembly do. This is what the Welsh government do. We govern South Wales. There's no attempts to say, oh, by the way, we've missed out and that's in Mid Wales as well. There's nothing in Mid Wales. By the way, we've missed out Mid Wales and North Wales. But hey, look, there is a reason. No, it's just we don't worry about that. We're just covering the civilised bit of Wales as far as we're concerned. I'm offended by it, to be honest. If I was a politician, I would be aware of these issues, and they're aware of these issues, but they decide that there's nothing to lose in not bothering to address it. And can I say, like I say, I'm a bad-minded bloke, so I'll put it out there. Shame these elections weren't the day after Notts County game, innit? Because I think they might well have been very keen to get Wrexham's votes then.
Yeah,
but they've got it now, so they don't have to pander to us, do they?
Yeah. Hey ho.
That's decades of resentment that went into that rant. Don't you worry.
But, if they're listening, which they're definitely not, come on, just give us a game. Let us hear those songs sung by the fans in the stands, and let us get that push for promotion, because it'll be huge for not just Wrexham, but for the whole of the country, that we have all of our teams in the Football League next season, or even the Premier League in Swansea's case. So just, get all of us playing in the Football League. Give us a push, give us a go, let us have fans, and I tell you what, it'll make the difference.
Well said. There's no better way to end a segment. You listening, Drakeford? Are you listening? Right. Let's move on to a less ranty subject, shall we? Because I was very fortunate to have a chat with a genuine hero of the club. Andy Thackeray made nearly 200 appearances for Wrexham in the late 80s and early 90s, but that's just scratching the surface of the way that he contributed to us. So have a listen to him, and you'll enjoy, I'm sure, some of his fun stories, including you'll find out who is the Lord Mayor of Wrexham.
I'm Fiacre Kelleher, and you're listening to Dragonheart Radio Show.
Andy, thank you so much for joining me. I've got to say, it's a pleasure to speak to you. And you, I've got to say, I would argue you had one of the most interesting Wrexham careers I've seen. You were across a lot of positions. You had a heck of a lot of varied experiences as well.
Yeah, is that you saying jack of all trades, master of none?
I'm saying master of all trades. Don't worry.
I think I knew my limitations, and I knew that if I worked extremely hard, both in training and in matches, I think people always appreciate that, and that's both players, managers, and hopefully supporters. So yeah, I loved my 4 seasons there. A fantastic place to live. I bought my first house in Wrexham. Then moved back to Huddersfield and travelled in with a few of the older players. But it was just a great 4 years of my life. So, I'm fondly remembered.
You had a strange sort of start to your career anyway, with that, because you got to the FA Youth Cup final with Man City. And then, well, I mean, what happened to you in that 2 legs of that final is a pretty crazy story, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, really crazy. I mean, we got through. We were a very good team. We played Manchester United, and unfortunately, I had a little bust up just before half time in the first leg at Old Trafford, and me and a young lad called Aidan Murphy got sent off. The second leg was only a few days later, and we presumed we couldn't play in the second leg. The FA gave us the all clear to play. The kickoff was delayed. There were so many fans turned up. I think there was over 20,000 fans turned up at Main Road. And we went on and won the FA Youth Cup, which was brilliant for an 18-year-old. Yeah. Unfortunately, just as I'm about to go up the steps with all my teammates to receive the trophy, this big lumbering FA official with a big, grey suit on and FA badge said, "I'm sorry, you can't go up and get your trophy." So I had to stay on the pitch while all my teammates went up, collected the trophy, showed it to the fans, and strange day, strange evening, but a fantastic memory all the same.
Oh, absolutely. You moved on then to Newport, which was maybe unfortunate timing for you, because they had financial issues which maybe hadn't come to the surface then.
Yeah.
And so, although you did well for them, I mean, you did well against us in the Welsh Cup for them, for example. But
That's right.
that wasn't really, well, Newport were the club were just not in a position to keep going, were they?
No, obviously I came from Manchester City. I came to my hometown club, Huddersfield. I just got in the first team at Huddersfield, and they were in the old Division 2, the Championship now, and there were 4 or 5 places off the bottom. I made my league debut, played a couple of games, did okay playing right wing, and then manager got sacked, Mick Buxton, and Steve Smith took over, who, for whatever reason, there was a couple of us got in the first team, young lads. He said he didn't think they could get out of that precarious position at the bottom of the Division 2 as it was with youngsters. Being headstrong, 18-year-old, I decided to go to Newport on deadline transfer day, which was a big upheaval, but in hindsight, wrong club at the wrong time, just because of the financial difficulties, but brilliant because I was playing against men, and as you know, with today's football, as an 18-year-old, some don't play football till the 22, 20, 23 against experienced professionals. So by the time, I'd left Newport and come to Wrexham, I had, 50, 60 senior games under my belt as an 18, 19-year-old boy, which was great, and I loved it. And I loved every game I played, to be honest.
And then you came to Wrexham alongside Graham Cooper and Nigel Beaumont came in the same summer. And right. We got off to a flying start. Cooper scoring at Exeter, scoring 2 games in a row and beating, spectacular goals as well. And it must have been nice to get in a chance to start the season centre mid, where I think you wanted to be, and actually, sort of the momentum was great.
I mean, just coming to Wrexham at the time, I think there was a lot of experience there at the time. You had your Jeff Hunters, John Bowdens, Mike Carters, Ollie Kearns, and you couldn't see what was coming. The youngsters that were going to come through, you couldn't see that coming. And Dixie was so passionate about football, and he's passionate about Wrexham, and it was great to play with. He let you play with a freedom. I think that's how he played his football, Dixie, didn't he? He played with a freedom, and you could just sense that the whole club had, a passion about it. And just going off that a little bit, I brought my sons up. We were over in Chester one day, and I just drove across with my 2 boys. At the time, we were sort of 13, 12 and 9. And I managed to get in the ground. I think somebody let me in, and I showed them the ground, and they were like, wow, you played here. Because I think that's the effect that the racecourse has on, lots and lots of people. So, it was lovely to play there. You're playing in a big stadium, you're playing in an international stadium. You're learning about life as well. I was living on my own, bought my house, as I say, in Ponke. Didn't know the area, bought a little house in Ponke, and just thoroughly enjoyed everything about it. Yeah, it was great.
You soon found yourself being used in a few positions, like we alluded to earlier, though, didn't you? You were filling in full-back, both sides, I think, full-back, if I remember correctly. And then you played right-hand side midfield as well, like across midfield. Is that great because you're getting games because you're versatile, or frustrating because you'd really rather be in the middle of it?
No, I think like most youngsters, when I came through the youth ranks and things, I was a frustrated forward. I played forward like you do because you've got a bit of ability when you're playing around your home area. I'd scored lots of goals, and you always think you're going to be a forward, don't you? But realistically, you see proper forwards when you come into football clubs and professional football clubs, and you work with them, and you realise they've got a natural instinct. One of the best players I ever played with was Kevin Russell, and you see what a forward really does. So naturally gravitating towards the back, I think, is probably the best way that I went, to be honest. That's what you do, don't you? I think that was me. I was always a team player. All the games I played in my career, I played all over the place. So, you just hope that you're appreciated wherever you play. And no problems playing for anybody. You're getting paid to play football and do something you love doing. So if someone asks you to do something, you do it, don't you? That's the whole part of it. And
we got to the playoffs that year, of course. The game against Scunthorpe was memorable.
Yeah, disappointing, obviously, at the end, and the club. When you see the racecourse full, like it was in some of those games, it puts a whole new perspective on. At the time we were struggling a little bit, where we had, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and then suddenly you see 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 there, and it does make a massive difference to how you perceive where you're playing. And I think that first season, a big shout out, because Steve Buxton, Neil Salathiel were pros senior pros at the time, and they really helped myself settle in, and also Joanne, my partner then, who was my wife now. Coming across on a weekend, she came across to watch the games, and all the wives, girlfriends, always made her feel really welcome. So, as I say, especially Steve and Neil, they were fantastic, and fantastic Wrexham men, I think, as you all appreciate.
Oh, absolutely. And then the next season was when, frankly, you joined the ranks of fantastic Wrexham men, because you saved us from dropping into the conference. I mean, that was a traumatic season, really, for a lot of it. It was a frightening season, and then it turned around with you, scoring 6 in 9, and 5 of those were the only goal of the game. So, I mean, were it not for that, we probably wouldn't have survived that season in the Football League.
No, and I think, as I say, if you've got people pulling in the right direction, which I think a lot of people were then at that time, it makes things a heck of a lot easier, and it didn't matter, did it? When a club's in that situation, now at Wrexham, that they're being out of the Football League for so long, it's so tough to get back in. And I think that as long as you've got a mindset and a spirit, which the whole club had and the players, it was just about getting out of that situation, and we did. And personally, it was a nice run for me and scoring a few goals, but that doesn't matter, does it? In the grand scheme of things, it's about keeping that league.
It mattered to us, believe me. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's all. You're brilliant. The goals you scored.
But you see, when I later on in my career, I went to Halifax and we won the conference and got back up into the Football League. And it's exactly the same. Now they've come back out again. You can see the turmoil that goes around clubs, can't you? And ultimately the supporters just love the clubs, and you don't want to see them going through that. It was just a tough time, but again, enjoyable because you're playing football.
I was saying to some of the some people on the match at Saturday, I was saying that for me, outside of actual specialist strikers, you're probably the best finisher I've seen us have, because the consistency, especially in that spell. My picture of that spell of football is you driving down that right channel, comes to the edge of the area, bang, bottom corner, hard, keeper's not got a chance. And although, like I said, I mean, to score the only goal in 5-1 is incredibly valuable. Yeah. The other one in that sequence of 6 goals in 9 games was the second equaliser against Colchester, and that's one of the most memorable games I've ever seen. To sort of relegation playoff with a huge gale pushing us forwards. I mean, that was unbelievable to watch.
It was, and there's lots of circumstances in games that change games, isn't there? And I think scoring goals at crucial times gives everybody a lift. I mean, I think when you score a goal, you feel that elation. But when at that time I scored, like you say, 5 or 6 goals, and it had never happened to me before. And sometimes you don't quite. I'm not a Kevin Russell, as I say, or you don't know how to celebrate sometimes, do you? But I think it was a bit of a turning point for the club, wasn't it? We preserved our status, and the youth policy. Wow, what a youth policy you had at that time, and you'll probably go on to that, but just some brilliant footballers for both Wrexham and higher up in the leagues came along and just did wonders for you.
Well, that next season is a strange one, isn't it? Because, I mean, we finished bottom of the 4th division, but we knew there was no relegation. It certainly looked like Brian Flynn had made a conscious decision of, well, I can bring young lads in here to bring them through because there's no danger. We had some weird highs. I mean, the European games, but because of that strange rule about non-Welsh players, you only got to play in the last Man United match out of the 4 games. And you played home away against Everton. That Everton home game, I always remember, as everyone was amused that weren't Wrexham fans that we lost 5-0 at home. But I seem to remember Neville Southall keeping him in that game. I thought we were phenomenal in that game. It was a weird sort of, and then of course you're still moving around a bit. And there'd been this strange thing about the transfer list as well, hadn't you? Where you'd been sort of on and off that, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was probably my versatility and playing, not having a set position. And I think maybe that the third season was a little bit of a frustration there, you know, and that maybe got to me at the time, in and out of the team and moving around. And it's probably the only time it did get to me. But as I say, things change. You knuckle down, you get on with it. And as I say, you hold nothing. Managers like you in periods, don't they, if you're doing well there for them. And then they can just as easily wake up on a Sunday morning and not quite like you for the week after. So, you know, there's no problems there with anything. And as I say, it's just a matter of getting your head down when you do get a chance.
It must be so annoying in Europe, you know, to not be able to play in those games because of these very harsh qualification rules. At least you got to play that Man United game at Wrexham, but how frustrating, you know. I mean, we played at Old Trafford. You missed out as well on the going and playing on the continent when we beat the Danish team, Lingby.
That's right. Well, then, you know, Matt Satori played, I think, and Nige Bowman. So, you know, other lads in my situation, you were just pleased for them, you know, John Bowden played. So, you know, it's just one of them things. You've just got to, you know, and playing for, obviously I played for Newport, didn't I, in the Welsh Cup, and we could have got into Europe, and we played in the Welsh Cup final and we drew 2-2 with Merthyr Tydfil, and then they beat us in the replay. I pulled my hamstring in the first leg and couldn't play, and you think I've missed out on Europe there, you know, but there was no guarantee I'd have played anywhere, would there be, an Englishman? So yeah, just great memories though. I mean, as I said, under the lights at Wrexham, when there's, you know, all them fans there, both Man United, the big Arsenal game, you know, Everton's, you know, West Ham's. It's just a brilliant place to play football, and you know, there's just something about it. And I watch on Twitter now, and I see the supporters, and they drive past taking pictures of the floodlights when they're on, don't they? Just to show, you know, it's this big beacon of light what's in Wrexham, and it's great. You know, it's lovely, and it brings back lovely memories.
Oh, we're proud of our massive floodlights, don't worry. Yeah.
You are.
And of course, Graham Cooper finding a sort of Welsh grandmother or something to let him play the games. That was that was classic.
I mean, there's so many funny stuff. I mean, obviously, I came across Joey Jones a bit more, and I think one of the pre-seasons we played in the friendly game down at Marston's, didn't we? You know, we used to play when we had Marston's sponsors, and obviously large amounts of beer were consumed after the game. We got on the coach coming back. Large amounts of beer were consumed on the coach coming back, and we were walking home. And I won't tell you who I was with. I was with one other player and Joey Jones, and the other player, not me, decided to needed to relieve himself and have a wee. Well, as he was stood having a wee, this police car came flying along, and I was thinking, oh no, this is it. The police car wound his window down to a drunk Joey, myself, and one unnamed player, and said, "Hiya, Joey, do you want home?" Left me and the other one waiting. Joey got in the car, very well inebriated, and got a lift home from the local constabulary. And we was, I thought we were in serious trouble because, but yeah, it's fond memories. Yeah, as I say.
Hang on, you and the other guy didn't get a lift home, though.
We didn't get a lift home, Joey. Joey got the Lord Mayor of Wrexham got a lift home.
Oh, shocking that is. Well, the next season, of course, remarkable was, for a start, you were ever present throughout that season, and an incredible season in so many ways. But of course, the most important elements people remember, the cup run. My recollection is that Winsford and Telford gave us proper tough games in those first, we could have not got to that Arsenal game, but we did get to the Arsenal game, and of course we had no chance, did we?
No, I think the Telford game, I remember that, and you thought, are we going to get through this at the time? We were really under the cosh. And as you say, you came through it. But then I think that the resurgence of the whole club, it made the young players, didn't it? Phil Hardy, Gareth Owen, Lee Jones. Yeah. It made them a focus for what you were to become for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Gareth Owen, sorry, I forgot to mention Gareth. Steve Watkin. But I could go on. About Cal Connolly. They just, Cal Connolly turning up. I played in his first game on the Racecourse when I think we were just having it was a friendly game, and his family were all in the turf. And he just come over from Liverpool, and he had about 10 of his family and friends there cheering him on, And you just saw within half an hour of his first friendly game for Wrexham that he was just fantastic, So, yeah, all these players surrounded with good experience. You know, you Gordon Davis, you know, Brian Flynn, Joy himself, you know, and I just look back on the whole time there when I noted it down here, and you think, I played with Alan Kennedy, I played with Joey Jones, I played with Mickey Thomas, I played with Gordon Davis, you know, Peter Barnes, all these players came to play for Wrexham, and you see them all on highlights now, you know, on the television. You think, well, you know, didn't have too bad there. It was quite, you know, quite an experience.
Well, I found this rooting around in my house. You played with Peter Barnes, a footballer who's got a game. I mean, that's quite something now, isn't it? So,
you go.
You know you've made it if you got rid stuff like that. Exciting travel game for two players. You could play it on the coach down to West Ham for the first match, couldn't you? You know,
right? Could do, yeah.
Brilliant. I mean, that Arsenal game though. I mean, going into a game like that, is the attitude like, well, we'll just give it a go, or is it? Well, I don't know. How do you prepare for a game like that when they are obviously the best team in the country, or had been the season before?
I think you do, yeah. I think you just want to enjoy the moment, and you want to enjoy the whole thing, because realistically, you aren't going to win.
Yeah.
But then suddenly you find you're clinging on to games. It gets to half time, and your manager and your coaches are telling you, look, you know, just cling in there, stay there, keep doing the right things, and you never know. And you never know happened, didn't it? You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and it goes, you know, the goal from Mickey. I mean, you can close your eyes at night dreaming about it, and you wake up in the morning still on your mate. It was that good, wasn't it? You know, it was just, you know, just as a footballer to be involved in something like that, and to see. I mean, it wasn't, you know, if it would have been scrappy and the goals would have been scrappy, you'd have thought, but two brilliantly executed goals to win the game, you know, and that's what probably makes it more special, you know.
Yeah. And for the Steve Watkin, a local lad, to get the winner as well is a sort of fairy tale element as well, isn't it? Really, it
is. And you watch the game back and you see, you know, they had lots of pressure first half, didn't they? You know, and probably could have got 2, 3, 4, but then, you know, I think there were 1 or 2 battles won towards, you know, the middle of the second half and towards the end of the game, and Arsenal didn't really like it, did they? Yeah. And I think everybody stood up, and then, as you say, when he scored that goal, I remember Wayne Phillips running off just with this strange look on his face. You know, you think, wow, what's happened here? And you know, and the joy then again at the end. You know, I always used to go across. There's a couple of disabled supporters used to sit on the far side, and they were, you know, in tears, and you know, you're thinking, wow, you know, this is a moment. It was brilliant, brilliant.
Oh, wow. It always strikes me as a bit of a psychological game, that one, in a sense, like you say, that Arsenal were better in the first half, but we dug in, and then by half time, I felt there was a sense, like I say, with Wrexham of, well, we've earned our right, we're still in this match, and of Arsenal, I felt like they came out in the second half a little bit. Well, we're much better. We're all right. We're in control of this. But 1-0's never in control. And then once things started to go wrong for them, because like in the second half, we were terrific.
We were. Yeah.
I mean, once the goal goes in, and they've lost control of the game before then, really, I would argue.
Right. Yeah.
It just looks like their heads go a bit. I mean, the thing that sticks in my head as much as the goals in a way is Rocastle, a wonderful player, just getting the ball in the centre circle in loads of space and just pinging it out for a throw-in on the full. Pass to nobody. It's just like they just were like, this isn't supposed to happen, and they seem to go into panic mode, and then the second goal hits them.
That's right.
It felt like, did it feel like that on the pitch, or do you just have to win your individual battles and play it, you know, moment by moment?
It did, yeah, because I remember when they scored first half and Paul Merson was playing on the left, and he never touched the ball with his left foot. He played on the left, and he did this dribble with his right foot, one from the halfway line, and you're thinking, I can tackle him here, but you couldn't get near to his right foot.
No.
What's that? And then, you know, and he went round me, and I think he went round Mark Sartori and crossed the ball, and you think, you know, no. But then, sort of second half, we made a conscious effort to get closer to them, and I think I upset him a little bit, Paul Merson, because, you know, a wonderful player, but, you know, he came up and fronted me up and wanted to stick his head in my face and things, and then you think, they're under a bit of pressure here, you know, and like you said, you know, mistakes they were making were not really what they used to making, are they? And you could see the tension grow. They were appealing for free kicks, weren't they? I think David O'Leary gave a couple of free kicks away. and they were like, this is not quite right, this. So, but yeah, brilliant, as I said, brilliant, great memory.
The heart's beating just hearing it. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm living it again, absolutely. And then it goes to the West Ham game. And that was, there are so many iconic moments in that. I mean, we had a terrible away record, and then we've gone there and done that to them. It was fantastic, wasn't it, really? I mean, brilliant.
And on a personal level, I think looking at that when we ran out and there was 6,000 Wrexham fans there behind that goal, you know, I'd never experienced that really, you know, and probably most of the lads haven't done, you know, that there was 6,000 away fans there. And I think for the whole 90 plus minutes, they were just magnificent. And then you see, you know, when Lee Jones went through and scored that goal, you were like, you know, and I think Wayne Phillips got a lucky deflection, didn't he? You know, that I think came off his shoulder, and it just transpired. It's just a shame that we didn't go through that second leg, because we did all right in the second, replay. We did all right in that one, didn't we? Just that big 6'7" centre half got that header at the foul post.
Foster.
And
then it goes the red card call with Tim Breaker fouling Carl Connolly, which is about as obvious a professional foul as you want to be able to see, really. You know.
That's right. Yeah, and the game, you know, the game turned on its head, but I think it showed a pride that the club got back a little bit of pride there, didn't it? And I think, you know, it's just. I think people appreciated the club then again, didn't they? Because, as I say, it had been a tough time, but I think they appreciated the young lads for what they were then, which was young men developing into, you know, proper football players. And it was fantastic.
And you've articulated beautifully there how, you know, the club can mean so much to local people, but also, I mean, that sort of success can have a much wider rippling effect. I mean, I was a trainee teacher at the time in Liverpool.
Yes.
And so, I mean, Liverpool of all places, the kids were all bothering me. Can you get us a ticket for the replay, sir? Can you get us a ticket for the replay? I mean, they were desperate. Arsenal's next game after losing to us was at Anfield in midweek. And the whole cop singing Wrexham. I mean, it just shows how that's a moment that'll be shared worldwide forever. It's how football just affects everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, you look at the FA Cup now, and you see the third round coming up in January, and you know that you're going to see parts of the Wrexham game coming on, you know, for the 2 or 3 weeks, you know, in the run up to it. So yeah, it gives you a little bit of a tingle, and to think that we're part of that it's fantastic.
I hope you're getting the royalties for that.
Well, yeah, I wish the club were getting the royalties for that. I don't think you need it at the moment, do you?
No, at the moment we should be fine. Thanks. You can have it. We're all right. And that season then became a building block for the next season where we got promoted. Money from the cup run let us bring players in like Mel Pedgick, Tony Humes, Mark Taylor. But you moved on to Rochdale in the summer, of course. So.
I think that was I won the Player of the Year, didn't I, that year? Yeah. And Brian Flynn offered me a 1-year contract, and I just wanted a bit more security of a 2-year contract. And there was no problems there. Brian was fine, and I knew Mick Doherty and Dave Sutton from Huddersfield when I was at Huddersfield, and they wanted me to go to Rochdale. I had another 4 or 5 great years there as well. Again. Very versatile, playing lots of positions. So it just, that's just what happened. But as I say, 4 great years, I think 150 odd appearances for Wrexham, which, you think, well, I didn't do too bad, did I? And then hopefully they were appreciated by, lots of the Wrexham fans.
Oh, that is 100% the case. I can promise you that. And I hope I expressed those goals you scored to save us from relegation. I mean, just that alone's enough to make you massively, massively appreciated by all of us. I've got to say, you said about 150 appearances, but you're doing yourself down a little bit. That's just in the league.
Right.
It's always irked me. I don't sound sad but you just fell short of 200 overall, 188.
Oh, right. Okay.
And,
wow.
When you look at the players who've made 200 appearances for us, you really are looking at the players who made a big contribution. And as far as I'm concerned, you should be amongst those players, because honestly, I can only on behalf of everyone thank you, because your contribution to the club If we'd gone down that year, I doubt we'd have had that side together to be able to take on Arsenal. So for all of that, and thank you so much from all of us. Really, thank you, Andy. Massively appreciate it.
No, it is. It's brilliant. But I think you've probably interviewed enough players and people around that you make a lot of acquaintances in football, but don't make a lot of friends. And at Wrexham, you always felt you had friends, if you understand that. It felt not just the players, but you felt that people genuinely wanted to, make you feel welcome, and it was a friendly place. And what more can you ask? As I say, you're a young man getting paid to do love, but you're also surrounded by people who love you doing what you love to do. So, it's great. Talent-wise, I think if I'd have been a yard quicker, I'd have probably gone on and played a lot more games, maybe at a higher level. But you can't coach pace, can you? You've either got it or you haven't. And it's, no matter how much you try. And you see superstars who've come through Wrexham, Chris Armstrong, who had blistering pace and went on to have, a fantastic career. But he had that pace. It was natural. It was a raw talent that he had, and seeing all them players, Phil Harder, Gareth Owen, obviously I follow all these, and you've watched them all, and you just think they were great times, although unpredictable for the fans. But characters like Nigel Bowman and Graham Cooper, who were like the terrible twins at that time, and Andy Priest, came and played with Chris Armstrong up front, and just partnerships make things, don't they? In all different areas of the pitch. And I remember once, I think we were in the doldrums, and there was a half-time team talk. I can't remember which game it was, but I think we were losing 2-0. And Brian came in, Brian Flynn, and he said he was fuming, and he said, "What more do you want?" He said, "You've got an international striker, Kevin Reeves. You've got an international midfielder, me. He says, you've got an international defender, Joy Jones, in here. What more can we give you?" And I remember Nigel Bowman saying, "We could do with international rescue," under his breath. This was at half-time. Well, I've never seen Brian Flynn so small run across the dressing room and grab Nigel Bowman under the neck, who was 6'4" and built like a brick outhouse. And you thought, and it was just one of those moments where you think, have I just seen that happen? And did he really say that? But yeah, it was just, but they were international coaches, weren't they? That's what they were, international players coaching us, and just great times. And I think socially, the fans saw a lot of the players out at the time, didn't they? They don't do it now because of social media, and I respect and appreciate that. But I think there was always that after a game where you'd have them lads going out and having a drink and socialising, and in the various pubs around Wrexham, and enjoying it, and enjoying the good times and the bad times. You probably got told a few home truths now and again, but you deserve that, don't you? If you haven't put in a but yeah, just good times. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Andy. It really has been a pleasure to speak to you. It really has. Thank you.
No problem. Can I just wish everybody all the best before they run into the end of the season, and hopefully a good end to the season and get that promotion that you deserve. So good luck to everybody, players, supporters, and officials of the club.
Oh, thank you. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Let's hope we can do it.
I'm Reece Johnson, and you're listening to the Dragonheart radio show.
Andy Thackeray, what a gent. Lovely fella, fascinating career, and a striking player for us, Chay. Partly because he was the man marking Paul Merson when Wrexham beat Arsenal, that took full part in that. You think about a career that ended for Wrexham. He plays in Europe as well. Admittedly against Man United, who doesn't get to travel very far, but still plays against Man United. Played League Cup games against Everton. And yeah, in some ways, despite that Arsenal game, there's something that he does that, for me, is absolutely massive, and I think shows that sometimes it's just those little moments or those little spells where you can contribute so much to a club. The season when we're in danger of getting relegated into the National League in the late 80s, I've got to say, if it wasn't for him, we surely would have been relegated. He was a very good finisher, but he didn't actually score a huge amount of goals. But he scores 6 goals, as I said in the interview, in 9 games, just when we look to be doomed. 6 in 9.
Wow.
And not only that, 5 of them were 1-0s. So his goal won all those matches. We talk about the value of Diarangos' goals before compared to Adi Yusuf. And then the other goal was in the marvellous game that I know I've waffled on about at length, and I will do more, I'm sure, when we played the other team in danger of getting relegated, Colchester, and fight back from behind twice to beat them. And that's a huge turning point. And he scored the second equaliser. If we'd lost that match, we'd have been 8 points adrift with not many games left. To have that scoring run just then and earn us all those points. I mean, you could argue just at 5 winning goals, he's earned us 10 points there, turning 5 draws into wins. That's an amazing individual contribution, and he wasn't even a striker.
Amazing. That is amazing. I'm really looking forward to listening to the interview.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is that we need someone to do that now, don't we?
Yeah.
We need Angus or Amatayo or Jordan, who, to be fair, has pretty much been doing that lately.
Yeah.
To suddenly catch fire and just when the games matter, to start scoring winning goals and pushing us over the line. And that person will go down in folklore then, won't they?
I'm predicting goal Amateo, 90th minute, playoff final, bicycle kick from the halfway line, crossbar, and in. And then we've won.
I'm picturing it now. What a beautiful thought. Excellent. Well, Chay, I hope your skills as a prophet are as good as your skills as a podcaster. That's all I can say about that.
Oh, thank you very much. And let's hope next week we're talking about 2 fantastic games where we're really pushing for playoffs.
Absolutely. And let's hope that if Gold can't score that amazing goal, it'll be a 45-yard rocket from Mr. Hollywood himself, Jay Harris.
This is Jay Harris, and you're listening to Dragonheart Radio.